Angles and triangles are the focus for this unit. Lines, segments, rays, and angles are the basic vocabulary words from this chapter. A line is a group of points that go on forever in a straight path. We have two arrows at the end of a line, and we name it with two capital letters. Line AC is the same as line CA, so we can name it either way. It doesn't matter the order of those letters. And a line is equal to 180 degrees. A segment is a portion of a line, so it also equals 180 degrees. It has two endpoints instead of having arrows at the end, and it is also named with two letters. And again, here the order of the letters does not matter. So segment TK is the same as segment KT. A ray is a part of a line that goes on forever in one direction. So it has one endpoint and it has an arrow at the other end indicating the direction that it is going on. It is also named with two capital letters. However, the order of the letters is very important. The first letter indicates the end point. Ray AD is not the same as ray DA. And with all of these, since they are all portions of a line, they all equal 180 degrees. An angle is two rays joined together to meet at the end point, which is called a vertex. It is named with three capital letters, a letter of the vertex, or a given letter. Here we have each of the four vocabulary words drawn out. Pause the video and name them. At the upper left, we have line AG, or you can also say line GA. Beneath that, we have line segment PR or segment RP. Again, the order for either of those does not matter. Next, we have ray WX. Remember that we only can say WX instead of XW. That would be a completely different ray. And then we have an angle. This is angle PQX. We can also say it's angle XQP, or we can say it's angle Q. However, if we add the ray QT, it is very confusing if we say this is angle Q, since there are two angles that meet at point Q. So now we have to use the three letters to indicate which angle we are talking about. So we could say angle TQP or PQT. And then if we were talking about the angle, the original angle that we started with, since they have now given us a letter C, we could also say that's angle C. When it comes to triangles, we've talked about three different types, and we've mostly focused on the sides when we talk about scalene, isosceles, and equilateral, but there's also important qualities about their angles of those types of triangles that we haven't focused on too much. So a scalene triangle we know has no congruent sides, but that also means that the angles are not going to be the same. In an isosceles triangle, we have two congruent sides and there are two congruent angles. In an equilateral triangle, there are three congruent sides and all angles are equal. Looking at the picture, go ahead and pause the video and name each triangle. The first triangle, PQR, is equilateral since it has one tick mark on each side. That shows that each side is congruent to another side that has one tick mark. And since all of them have the same amount, they are equal. Triangle KFC has two sides of the triangle that have a singular tick mark, and that indicates that those two sides are congruent. And since there are only two sides that are congruent, that is an isosceles triangle. Triangle XZY has no tick marks, so none of the sides are congruent, and so that is a scalene triangle. Each of these triangles, if we added up the sum, added up to find the sum of the angles, it would equal 180 degrees. So taking that knowledge, let's look a little closer at each of these triangles. Let's start with triangle PQR. We already know that it is equilateral, and so that means all the sides are equal, but it also means all the angles are equal. So if we know that all of the angles together equal 180 degrees, And since we have three equal groups, we need to divide 180 by 3. And when we do that, that gives us 60 degrees. So each angle in an equilateral triangle equals 60 degrees. No matter how long the sides are, every angle every time in an equilateral triangle is 60 degrees. Which angles are congruent in triangle KCF? Go ahead and pause the video and answer for yourself. In triangle KCF, we know that side KC is congruent to side CF. We name the sides of triangles just like we name line segments. So we have to use both capital letters. So since side KC is congruent to side CF, where those two congruent sides meet is the angle that is not going to be equal. So that means that angle K and angle F are the congruent angles. And since they told us that angle C equals 102 degrees, we can do the math and figure out what K and F equal individually and together. Since all three of them equal 180 degrees, we can subtract 102 from 180, and that gives us 78. Since we have two equal groups left for K and F, we can divide 78 by 2, and that gives us 39 degrees. What is the measure of angle X? So looking at triangle XYZ, we see that it is a right triangle since angle Z has the box around it that tells us that it is 90 degrees. And so we can add what we know. 25 and 90 equals 115. And we can subtract 115 from 180, and that equals 65. So the measure of angle X is 65 degrees. And again, it's important to remember that we name sides of triangles using two letters, and we name the angles of a triangle either using that one letter, or we can still use all three letters. So in that last triangle that we went over, angle X, we could have also named it angle YXZ or ZXY. It's important that the vertex is always the middle letter in an angle, so that helps us know where those two rays meet.